I want to really talk. We have two sort of big announcements that I want to make sure we're talking about.
Yeah,
And I'm really curious on your take on both of them. Because I don't, were you at both events
I was only at
or,
one. Uh,
okay, okay. Well, so the first one is Zendesk, and
mhm.
I'll let you tee it up. But here's what I found most notable in the Zendesk announcement was that I didn't hear it anywhere. There was almost no. It made almost no waves in terms of any of the stuff. I can't even tell you how many newsletters and things that I read with all the stuff. None of it talked about this, and that was sort of shocking because you sent it to me, and I'm glad you did. And I went through their press release, and it's like there's some good stuff here. So I don't know if you want to kind of tee it up, and then we can chat about. At least I'll share why I thought it was actually more noteworthy than it got credit for.
Yeah, so Zendesk, obviously one of the market leaders in service management, had their Relate conference last week, and as part of their announcement, they brought out their new AI capabilities, and they were pretty comprehensive. Zendesk has really put in some work to uh, put AI into their automation, create their copilot, as well as being able to access and summarize knowledge bases where Zendesk has all sorts of knowledge bases. They are, again, a market leader in collecting this type of information, as well as being able to use AI for some of the more standard metrics and uh, kind of use cases that we've come to see in a bunch of other places. But the fact that Zendesk, as a service company, did a lot of the stuff that we alluded to earlier in the Slack announcement, Zendesk made it real, and they did it based on a foundational set of processes, capabilities, and data that they've already had in their platform. That made it feel more meaningful, at least to me.
Yeah, so we talked earlier about Facebook being the company that was going to break this wide open and for the consumer world as far as people
Mhm.
using AI. I think this is going to be something very similar with the segment of the enterprise. So I mentioned that I was shocked about the lack of news, and I think part of the reason was that when I read through that announcement, I actually read through it a few times, and the first time it was like, oh yeah, come on, this is all the same stuff, whatever. And this is the challenge with what we do. We've been around this stuff for a very, very long time.
Mhm.
And for the most part, none of what they announce. So first of all, let's give us some credit. As you said, very comprehensive. Unlike the Slack thing, which was like, okay, we're summarizing. This was a complete suite of AI enabled solutions or products, whatever you want to call them, capabilities baked into the product, right? So it was not one thing; it was an entire set of things, fairly ubiquitous and fairly horizontal across their platform. Um, and then if you look at the things, a autonomous agent, they have the workflow automation, agent copilot, workforce management, and the QA. My first read, it's like, well, we've done all of this. All of this has been done. There were conversational AI agents out before. There have been companies that have done the QA components where they're actually evaluating transcripts and scoring calls and doing coaching. But the reality is, it's all being done predominantly by these fringe players,
Mhm.
by small little players that nobody had ever heard of, that were really trying to get traction in the marketplace. So it's not so much that the technology is brand new, but it is a lot less um, involved, a lot less. No, that's not the right word. It doesn't require the handholding that some of these other technologies, older technologies, required. Right? They were really impressive on the demo, and then you realized how much work it took to make it do that, and you had trouble always penciling out if it was worth the effort. So because this is now LLM based, you overcome a lot of that. But secondly, it's just that it's Zendesk. It's that this is going to be exposed to thousands and thousands of enterprises that are now going to actually be able to see this pragmatically in practice and see results from it. And I think it's going to be one of those watershed moments that's going to start really changing the nature of how people look at it.
Yeah, one of the things that is fundamentally different about this AI world that we're in is that vendors and companies that have a lot of data have an unfair advantage right now. This is not the same as when cloud computing came out and it almost democratized the field for any mom and pop shop to suddenly compete with the rest of the world. AI is actually different in this case, in that the companies that have been investing in big data and their data environments over the past decade have a real advantage. So a company like Zendesk that can feed or train their models on all this data, or at least related transactions or related metadata, has a big advantage over every startup that wants to come up and try to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I do think that's going to be a huge differentiator, and I also think the combination of that and the ubiquity of application, just the fact that they have so much presence, and what I didn't, and maybe you saw it, I didn't see like, is this an added price or is this just being baked in? So that's going to be one of the big questions. But the more the friction is reduced, the faster I think we're going to see this, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that drives adoption.
Yeah, I feel like there's always an advantage to be enterprise pricing, that you can always fudge the details a little bit more.
Yeah, I do think, and I think it's going to lead into our last conversation, and that is that while Zendesk is a very focused play, they sort of sit in a very critical part of the enterprise ecosystem, and so because of that, I think it is something that's going to get a lot of attention. Right, they run the contact centers, the point of interaction post sale with almost with countless organizations, of the relationship between the enterprise and their customers, and it's going to have this very highly elevated presence because of that. So I actually, I'm very bullish. I'm sad for them; they didn't get nearly the uptake from a press standpoint around it, but I think they're going to do well with this.
Yes, in retrospect, this was probably the actual most important enterprise AI announcement made last week. But it is hard to stand out when so many big companies are also yelling from the hills about how great their AI is.
Well, and it's blocking and tackling. This is the stuff that, ironically, it's not sexy. It's not, oh my god, that's amazing, and yet it's the stuff that actually drives real results that you're going to be able to pencil out an ROI on. So
Yep. Mhm.